Hello, how are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Rassie Erasmus has been banned by World Rugby for the next 2 games following his posts on social media after the France-South Africa games. I didn't really want to have to still be talking about this, but I think it is worthy of a video. It's such a hot topic. It divides people so much, particularly basically most rugby fans and a certain section of South African fans. So in this video, I'll talk about that. And if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and drop a comment down below on this whole situation. All right, let's get into it. So as I say, Rassie Erasmus has been banned for 2 games due to his social media posts after the France-South Africa game. I think this is quite an interesting development. It's the first time that we've seen this happen since Rassie himself received a much longer ban for that infamous video during the Lions series. So in terms of what's happened, World Rugby put out a press release saying that Rassie has been banned for 2 matches. Within that, he can't take part in any matchday responsibilities, so presumably he can't go to the games and things like that, I would guess. And he also can't take up any media work in terms of speaking to the media or social media either. He can't post on his own personal account. So I think this is the right call by World Rugby. I think it is a topic which actually in rugby circles is becoming quite toxic. It seems to divide people a lot, but I do think this is the right measure, and I'm going to do my best to try and explain why I think that is the case. First of all, I want to highlight a tweet that Rassie has put out himself, which I thought was quite interesting and also a load of nonsense, where he said, "Like myself, the referee of the French test and his family have received threats and abuse. Apparently, it's partly due to my tweets, which is totally unfounded. Tweets were not aimed at officials, but to our South African fans on what we should do better. Have a go at me, not the ref." Now, I personally think this is nonsense. I don't believe that his tweets are purely about trying to get a message across to the South African fans. I think he's trying to pull a fast one there. I think he is trying to pressurise referees, and I think he is ultimately trying to win games for South Africa. It was very interesting. There was an article in the Times a little while ago, I think it was Nick Mallett they were speaking to, who was referring to when Rassie was a player, where he basically said, as a player, Rassie would do anything to win. And I think that's what we're seeing now with him in his position in terms of director of rugby or when he was head coach of South Africa. It is about trying to get a decision out of the officials and about trying to win. And don't get me wrong, I do think there is genuine frustration about some of the decisions that have gone against South Africa. And I think there have probably been some decisions which South African fans and Rassie Erasmus are right to feel aggrieved that they've gone against them. But I also think that's part of the game. And I think Rassie's antics, particularly on social media, it does invite a pile-on. And I also think it really bleeds into the fan base in South Africa. I think it leads to this, as I said already, it creates quite a toxic environment where we're not able to discuss this. Do I think Rassie is the worst thing to have happened to rugby since whenever? No, I don't. I don't view him as particularly evil. I think he was a brilliant coach, in fact. I think what he did to turn South Africa around and win the 2019 World Cup and beat England in that final was absolutely sensational. He's a brilliant rugby mind. But World Rugby are right to punish him, in my opinion, because I think his antics do have consequences. And they do have consequences in particular for the way in which match officials are treated and the abuse they receive. And look, as I've already said, I understand, and I've done a few videos on this already, and South African fans have said that it's more about the accumulation of things that have gone against them rather than one specific incident necessarily. First of all, I don't think there is a conspiracy to penalise South Africa as some might have you suggest. I think maybe it is the case. I wouldn't know. We'd have to go back through every match and work out which teams have been penalised unfairly. I think maybe there have been some high-profile calls in recent times that have gone against South Africa, but I just think that is a frustration and something that fan bases and fans need to deal with. I've made a few notes in terms of just things I wanted to say. Maybe we do need to talk about the officiating in the game. As I say, I did a video on the channel where I highlighted, I went back through the final 20 minutes of the France-South Africa game to try and see whether it was fair that had South Africa been robbed. Was it fair, their frustration at what went against them? And ultimately, I kind of felt that there were some calls in there that went against them. But overall, I just wasn't necessarily convinced that they were absolutely robbed by the game. There was one call where Fiku went in the side. I think he should have been penalised. That might have then changed the game because South Africa would have kicked and got territory and France wouldn't necessarily scored their winning try. But these things happen, and these things happen in a rugby match. And I think the way in which Erasmus goes about his frustrations is totally unacceptable. Maybe we do need to talk about officiating. Maybe we do need to talk about how we can improve officiating in the game. I think we also need to talk about the interference of the TMO, when it happens, how long they interfere, how it delays the game and things like that. But these are discussions we should be having, everyone within rugby, to try and make it better. What Erasmus does isn't helping anyone. It's not helping him because he keeps getting banned. I don't think it's helping South Africa. I don't think it's helping South African fans personally, because I think it's creating an us and them mentality. And yeah, as I say, that's why ultimately I think that it is the correct decision that he received a ban. What it does do, though, is sets an interesting precedent. So from what I understand, after the last video he did in the Lions series, World Rugby changed their laws to be able to, I think, have a quicker process, an expedited process to be able to deal with any incidences like this. And Rassie Erasmus is now the first person to actually be punished by those new rules, which is somewhat ironic. But it does set an interesting precedent of someone not being able to use their personal social media account. And some people might say that's his personal account, he should be able to use it. I think most of us would agree that when you're a director of rugby at international level or at the club game, you have to take more responsibility for what you tweet. And I really don't feel that what he tweets is actually getting us anywhere. I don't think it's not reaching, I think, the conclusions that he hopes it does. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about this whole situation? And you might have been able to tell in the video, I'm kind of struggling to fully articulate my thoughts. I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to empathise with the frustration of South African fans. But ultimately, I keep coming down on the side of decisions go against you. Sometimes it's really annoying. Sometimes you might go through a period where you feel more decisions are going against you than they are other sides. I don't believe it's a conspiracy. And I think going on social media, the way in which Rassie is doing it, kind of tongue-in-cheek, and he's kind of taking the mick really when he says that he's just trying to explain things to the South African public. We all know, don't we, surely, this is about pressurising referees and trying to get decisions go your way. That's kind of my thoughts on this. As always, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and do drop a comment down below. I'm hoping that we're not going to have to do too many more videos talking about this kind of thing. I try and do things that I think people will find interesting. Seemed like I got quite a lot of reaction in terms of looking back on that France-South Africa match. So I hope that this is of interest to people. Let me know in the comments down below what you make of the whole Rassie Erasmus situation. His ban, is that fair? Let me know down below. I'll see you in the next one. Nice one.